I do this exercise with people. I'll bring them into the middle of the group, and I would say, put your hands up like this. And they put their hands up, and I'd start pushing them. And when I push them, they push back. 100% of the time, I've never had anybody not push me back. And I would say, why are you pushing me? And they would say, because you're pushing me. And I'd say to them then, do you trust me? Yeah. Okay. Would you allow me to move your hands back and then bring your hands forward? I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Yeah. And then I do it. And I say, why'd you let me do it then? And you wouldn't let me do it before. The more we push, the more resistance that we get.
Welcome back to MasterMined. I'm Mark Scrivener, and as always, I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Jeff Skillen. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Mark. Good to see you.
You too. Hey, we're a couple weeks past snowpocalypse as we've been recording this, Jeff, and I know you've had a ton of trees down around your house. Did you get power back and get everything going?
We got power back. We've helped a bunch of neighbors. I mean, it's been a rough time for Nashville, but it's Nashville strong. We're coming back.
You're right, man. Well, good. Today, we're joined by Dan Callahan. He's the founder of Chart Auditor and Pen Tester. We're so excited to have him aboard. Actually, Dan, I think before the show, we were talking a little bit about you being in Florida, and you had some power outages and a big cold spell that came through Florida as well.
Yeah, it was a long 2-day winter, and it was tough. But 12 houses in my community where a transformer went and the power went down, and of course my house was one of the 12. So I had to spend 2 days in a hotel.
Man, well, that's tough for Floridians. So hey, but man, welcome to the show today. It's great to have you on. Jeff and I have been really excited about this episode after meeting you down at I think East Coast Symposium this past year.
And
same here.
Same. And, Dan, it's you've had a long and winding road in this industry, and there's so many things that we could potentially talk about. Where would you want to start in terms of introducing our audience to kind of your backstory and then what you're doing these days?
Ooh, that's a good one. So my experience goes back to 1983. So that tells you one thing. I'm just an old guy. But maybe my recovery journey a little bit, or some of my
be great.
Yeah. Okay. But I think my recovery certainly plays into the fact that I am a social worker, but not in a way not in a way that normally occurs. All right. So what I mean by that is I grew up on Long Island, New York. I grew up in a town called Lindenhurst, the village. And my dad and my mom were volunteer firemen. My mother was an auxiliary person and my father was a fireman. And it was like, volunteerism was part of our life. In fact, I was talking to my mom just the other day, and maybe about a month ago, this conversation came up, and we were talking about my wife loves to decorate for Christmas, and she starts in November. And, in the middle of January, she's taking things down. I was talking to my mom about it. And I said, Ma, we used to decorate Christmas Eve. And here we are, we decorate, right before Thanksgiving, we're starting to decorate. But the reason we did was because my parents they built this thing called Christmas Town. And it was in the fire department. They had this annex. And they would have all these different booths of like these Christmas themes. And my dad was a tin soldier. I was an elf. My uncle was Santa Claus, and just this whole array of things. And Christmas Eve, we were still going to the hospitals and giving out, candy canes and things to children. That was like inbred into me, like to give back to the community. Really at a young age, I'm going to say 11, I had started smoking pot and drinking. I come from an Irish family, so drinking was part of our culture. And my uncle and my dad and my mom even, they tried to teach you how to drink responsibly. And so it was never like, I don't ever remember my first drink. I don't remember my first drunk, but I do remember my last. And and the reason I say that is because that background, the things that were like part of my life, um, made me realize I was in college at the time, and I remember like at an after party calling my mom one night, and the next day I call her back and say, I'm okay, everything's all right. After about a week or two of that, the last time my mom said to me, Danny, don't call me tomorrow. We're coming to get you. And I was like, I don't know what made me do it, but I just didn't call her. And my mom and dad showed up. But the feeling that I had at the time was, look at you. What are you doing with your life? This is not the way to live. And I felt embarrassment and shame and pain. It was my 6th year in a four-year school, and I still had a year to go. So it just wasn't ideal for me. So anyway, in between that, I had also gone into the Army, and I spent a couple years in the Army. And so I had VA benefits. So my parents just picked me up, took me right to the VA, and I went into rehab.
Dan, well, I love how open you are with all of this, and I guess the question I'd have for you is like, how did your own like recovery journey? How does it shape the way you approach helping others today?
Wow, that's a great question. I've thought about that a bunch too. One of the things that so let me go back a little bit more first, and then I think you'll pick this up. At 19, okay, so before I go to college, first of all, high school, I got thrown out of high school March my senior year. I did not think that college was even in my future. I had no idea. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I could do it. So I went to the Army. I get out of the Army and I start hanging out with these guys that I had no job. I was on unemployment, and I started hanging out with these guys that were doing robberies. And because I'm a big guy, they were like, we could use you. Why don't you come with us and be like, if somebody gets out of line, you stop them. And I was like, okay. So, so I started doing it, and we were doing it like each night, for about a month. And I'd get my portion of money and I'd go to the bar and I would drink and drink and drink, and I would buy people drinks, and I was like a big shot, and then the next day I'd be out of money. So I'd have to do it again with them. We end up getting caught, and they come to a plea agreement with me to do 1 to 3 years in state prison. And the judge says to me, after I plead guilty, before I get sentenced, I plead guilty, and the judge says, you go home, you work, you stay away from the people that you were hanging out with, and if your probation report comes back, maybe we'll give you 1 year in county jail. So I'm like, okay. I go home, I hang out with the same people, we're drinking every night. I go for the probation report. On the way there, we do a robbery. I'm drinking while I'm on the way to the probation report, and there I am with the guy I'm not supposed to be with, and he says, "Look, we're not supposed to be together. I'm gonna go in, wait about 20 minutes, and then you come in." And I'm like, okay. I waited what felt like 20 minutes. It was probably 5, and I walked in, and they knew. They could smell beer on me. They didn't say a word, but obviously I failed that report. A couple of days later, we get caught again. So here I am already convicted of one armed robbery, and I now have more, on my plate. So long story short, I do get lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it, and I get sentenced to 3 to 9 and 2 1/3 to 7, and they run them concurrent. So I end up going to prison, and that's really where the beginning of my life changed. About a year in, I decided not to drink any longer. I'm like, actually what happened, some friends came up and they brought some weed for me and some Black Beauties. And so I take the Black Beauties, I go back into my cell, and I'm smoking a joint. And now I am sitting in prison, paranoid, can't sleep, and I'm going, what is wrong with me? So that was like the first thought that I needed to do something different. And anyway, long story short, I started my last year in prison. I started with college, and I had no idea I could do it. I took my GED. I didn't study. I just passed it. They gave me the practice test. They were like, you can do this. And then I did it and I passed it. So then they got me into college. Back then in New York State, I don't think you could do it any longer, but they had college programs in the prisons. So I say all that because then when I'm getting discharged, when I'm getting paroled, I get a job in behavioral health. So the guy was a friend of a friend, and they brought me in as a child care worker, but they labeled me as a maintenance guy. Well, so I had to work with the maintenance crew 1 day a week, and then I was doing child care work. While I was doing that, they send me for this training. And I go into the training, and the doctor that was doing the training said, this is how he started the thing off. He said, I want you all to know right now that we have a 0% success ratio with these kids. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, why are we here then? And in my head, I'm thinking that. But that, it fueled me inside. I was like, I wonder what they thought about me going to prison. I wonder what they thought about, because those kids were like, in my head, were like me. And I'm like, I don't understand this. So that kind of fueled me, which kind of encouraged me more to go into behavioral health. The initial years in behavioral health, that was in 1983. My initial years in behavioral health were with adolescents. And to be honest with you, that was really, really difficult, like really difficult. And then when I got my bachelor's degree, I got a case management job with a mental health clinic, people with serious and persistent mental illness. They asked me what would be, I've had some great supervisors, by the way. The first thing they asked me was, what population do you think you're the most, strongest to work with? And which ones do you want us to keep you away from? Which was really amazing to me that somebody would even ask me that, because I went from learning that we can't help anybody to, hey, we want you to work with the people that you feel you can work with best, and we want to keep you away from the people that you don't feel that you can work with. So my first, let me see, that was up until about 2000. So my first maybe 15 or so years was in mental health, primarily with secondary addiction.
First of all, I mean, thanks for sharing that story. And I want to go back to the fact that you started off talking about how you were sort of immersed in helping as, in your family, right? So you had the volunteer fire parents. And so that started off early, and then you took this wide detour, right? But now we're back into a spot where I'm guessing this kind of woke up that helper in you again. And it's interesting because it's like, I mean, Dan, when my earliest memories of meeting you and working with you is that you bring a lot of happiness and joy to the people that you work with. I'm wondering where you found that, and then how you actually bring that out, in what, where did you discover that, and how did you start bringing that to other people?
In 1997, after I got my MSW, I started reading self-improvement books. Somebody recommended to me, hey, why don't you read, I forget which book was first, but oh, no, what happened was I get this thing in the mail, and it was a card. You probably remember these. It was like CBS or something like that. They would send you a tape or a CD, right? And so you could sign up for it, and they'd send it to you. And if you liked it, you'd pay for it. So I ordered one, and it was Tony Robbins. And I listened to that. It was so good. And then the next one came, it was Earl Nightingale. And I listened to that, and I listened to it like every day. I'd go out for a run, and I'd listen to it every day. And I started realizing that, that, empowerment was not just for people that I served, empowering them to recover, the empowering them to, to find a home, or, uh, you know, uh, whatever, right? So I started to apply that to myself. Now at the time, see, that was 97. I was sober 9 years at that time. So, I started to really, really get into it, and I started to look at recovery a little bit differently. I started to look at recovery as, this is part of my life journey. And the more positive stuff that I put into my life. So if I start focusing on the things that are positive in my life, rather than the typical message, I'm broken, I need to be fixed, let me focus on my brokenness. So I call that, for me, I call it the difference between self-help and self-improvement. So self-help is I'm broken. I need to work on my brokenness. Self-improvement is, yeah, I'm broken. However, I have these strengths, and if I focus on what's right and I focus on where I'm going, what I would really want to achieve in my life, I could do anything. And so that's really where it started. And I started answering my phone. People would call me. I go, "It's a great day. This is Dan speaking. How can I help you?" So I started to really shift, you know, the woe's me to let's go get this.
Yeah, Dan, as we were doing a little research on you, I've seen that maybe you've questioned some of the traditional and directive therapy models, and you've kind of said they do more harm than good. What did you see that made you kind of question that?
Well, that's a good one. When I shifted from the SPINI population to strictly alcohol and other drugs, the thing I noticed is I was sitting in a group one day. I was witnessing a group that one of the other therapists were running, and it was your deepest, darkest secrets. And I was sitting there, and I was thinking to myself, yeah. And then I started to notice the people that were resistant. So my first work was with it was actually my second work in the field of addiction was with younger people. And I started to notice there was a lot of resistance, a kid 20, 21, 22, heroin addiction. They're not sold yet. They know they know they got to do something, but they're just not there. And so I noticed that the therapists were pushing, 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 pushing. And eventually what would happen is somebody in the group would say to them, you know, if you don't break down and you're going to be here forever. So then I noticed a couple of days later, they'd be sitting in group and they start crying. They start talking about their hurts, their pains, their trauma, all the things that they went through. Um, And then when they went outside with their friends, they were smoking again, laughing, giggling, everything was kind of good. They get discharged, and what would they do? They go right back to what they were doing. So my thought was, are we really helping people in the beginning of this recovery process if we slam this down their throat, if we're pushing trauma, if we're pushing, mommy and daddy, you're the result of mommy and daddy. So I started training people that worked with me and helping them realize that the more I push somebody, the more they push back. Motivational interviewing types of skills. Let me ask questions. Let me ask them permission to see if what I have to offer is valuable to them. And I think, actually, I was watching Brian O'Shea, and he was talking about education. And I really believe that education in the beginning process, in the beginning stages of recovery, after they get through withdrawal management, is really key. Because if they don't know what they're fighting for, if they don't know where they're heading, they're not going to get there. So, and if all we keep doing is just beating them up, they're not going to get there. I do this exercise with people. I'll bring them into the middle of the group, and I would say, put your hands up like this. And they put their hands up, and I'd start pushing them. And when I push them, they push back. 100% of the time, I've never had anybody not push me back. And I would say, why are you pushing me? And they would say, because you're pushing me. And I'd say to them then, do you trust me? Yeah. Okay. Would you allow me to move your hands back and then bring your hands forward? I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Yeah. And then I do it. And I say, why'd you let me do it then? And you wouldn't let me do it before. The more we push, the more resistance that we get. So that was really the basis of it. Do I believe in trauma work? Absolutely. Do I believe, in a more integrated, integrative model? Absolutely. But there's a time for that. And the first 30 days is not it.
That makes a ton of sense. In terms of like, that's the direct care side of you, Dan. And I'm curious, it's like, at what point, and maybe you still do a lot of one-on-one work as well, maybe. But I'm wondering at what point did you sort of find this entrepreneurial flame in this space? Because it's like, that's how I came to know you, is that, you were starting businesses. You were doing things that made treatment better, from a business perspective as well. So when did that happen?
That's really good. That came from a sponsor. A guy was my mentor. His name was Jack Jackson. His mantra was and is, well, no longer, he's passed, but life is meant to be enjoyed and not endured. And I had talked to him I said, I've worked for the government. I've worked for not-for-profits. I'm considering opening a treatment center using, this philosophy that I have and this protocol that I have. I'm considering doing it. And he said, absolutely, you need to do it. And he told me his story. He had the same kind of mindset. He was Canadian, and he noticed that Canadians in above Idaho, wherever that is, Calgary or whatever, would drive down to Idaho to drink on Friday and Saturday night because they couldn't drink back there. I guess there was a prohibition or something going on, and they'd get DUIs down here. So he started a DUI clinic in Idaho, and he was extremely successful about it. And I said to him, the only thing is, I don't know how to do a not-for-profit. And he said, you don't do a not-for-profit. You have the right to earn what you deserve. You don't make money, you earn money. So he got me to start thinking entrepreneurially, the word, I can't say it. As an entrepreneur, that was the beginning. So my first treatment center was I was a little controlling. It was a mandatory 90-day center. It was for professionals, police, lawyers, medical people, and it was alcohol only. So it was adults. Then I started. Then I that was, believe it or not, that was in Panama, Central America, and I moved back to the States, and I decided to open a facility in Florida. And so anyway, I opened a couple of facilities in Florida. We worked on those, and then I had this idea back in '97. That position I had, New York State tried to get us to use an EHR, and it was the first time I ever seen anything like that, and it was horrible. I was a supervisor at that point. It was horrible, and we couldn't figure out how to use it. Um, and the boss was telling me you have to use it, and my therapist was saying I can't use this. I don't know what to do, and so it was really difficult. But I remember thinking then, boy, if anybody could ever do this thing right, this would be a miracle. This would really be great. And then fast forward to my treatment center, we needed a product. It was clear that paper was not in our best interest. And I hired a company to bring their service in. They were new, and their service was not very good. So my son and partner said, "Well, why don't we build our own?" And that's how ZenCharts really started. I taught them the ins and outs of auditing. Of charting. We had this warehouse, and we painted the walls at Home Depot white that you could write on. And from one end to the other, I just went down and I just started to show them how a chart flowed and what we needed. And I would start teaching them. They go, "Well, that means if you do this, you have to do no." And then I slide a new one over. We had this whole wall of all different colors, and that was the start.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to me. You take a look at kind of the arc of the story here. So it's like you go from I'm going to say sort of a woe is me to a go is me, right? So you're like, now, it's like, I recognize that I've got this internal motivation. Sponsor gives you some feedback that says that life is to be enjoyed, not endured. Then you start seeing that there's an opportunity to actually use this direct care experience that you've developed, and you see an opportunity to actually build something in the marketplace. And then that's how ZenCharts came to be. Fair?
Right. That's fair.
And you've stayed on that, and you've stayed in that entrepreneurial space really ever since, in terms of wanting to provide services, that actually make life within operating a treatment center better, right?
Yeah. And probably in between there too. So when we had our first website built, and the guys that built it really took advantage of us, and they were doing the marketing and all that, and it was really bad. And I was telling this other fella that I knew in the program, and he said, "You know what? I have a friend that you need to meet." And I'm like, "Okay." He introduces me. I go up, I meet this guy. You ever hear of LegalZoom? What LegalZoom is? Okay, it's a legal a website they do all kinds of legal work and forms and stuff like that. So it turns out this guy's an attorney, and he had this connective tissue disease, and he was living in this remote spot in Panama. And we went up and visited him, and he said, "I looked at your site. You absolutely have been taken advantage of. However, I will teach your kids how to build the site and how to market your site from the ground up." He had initially built LegalZoom with his family because he was an attorney and he couldn't work any longer. So he built this thing. My son and partner learned from this guy, built this, and then eventually learned how to code and learn how to do, build the other products, which brings us all the way through to today.
Yeah, it sounds like through that story arc too, that there were, at points in times, the right people stepped in at the right time to really help you and bless you to where you're at today. And it's been a great story up to this point. I'd love to get in a little bit for those maybe who aren't familiar with like Chart Auditor. Maybe if you could just talk a little bit about what you built and like what it's solving today.
So part of the whole idea when we had built Zen Charts was to make it a full suite of tools. And in the back of my head was, we want to build. The first time I saw machine learning, we had two of our techs were going to working on a master's degree in machine learning, so what we call today AI. And I remember when I said, "What is that?" And they explained it to me, and I was like, "Wow, that is amazing." If that ever really truly works, I want it. So I wrote down I started to write down a list of all the things that I would like to see, especially in notes. I wanted to see a therapist could say what treatment they've offered, what the history was. They'd be able to put in just specific words or sentences, and then create a note using AI. So I had this idea that was somewhere in the mid 2000s, maybe 2013, 2014. So I had written it all down, and my partner knew about it. Rick, he knew about it, and he knew the whole issue with charts and auditing. So he handled a lot of the business side of I handled the treatment side, they handled the business side. And, he knew that billing was a major issue. In fact, Cigna clawed us back like millions of dollars at one point, in our treatment center that we had to fight over. It was a big thing here in Florida. We had to fight them over it, and United did very similar. So if you don't have good charting, if your charting is not up to speed, and what is up to speed for a note, up to speed is what is it that the insurance company is looking for in that note to justify that claim. As a therapist, as a social worker, we were always trained to track progress, not acuity. And now all of a sudden we have to, with managed care, we have to track acuity and ignore progress. Otherwise, you're not going to get paid. So things like that. And then all of the, Joint Commission had their standards. The state had their standards, your own policies and procedures. And then, of course, the payer had their standards. So you had to melt all that together and make sure you're going to get paid, you're going to stay in compliance, and you're doing the right job for your patient. So with that, my partner Rick came up with the idea. He said, why don't we use AI to build an auditing tool that would go in, it'll utilize everything that the treatment center uses. So if it's a Cigna client, it'll base the audit on the Cigna regs or medical necessity guidelines. If it's Joint Commission or if it's CARF, it'll use those. And depending on the state, it'll use that, and it'll use your policies and procedures. So we went to work. We went to work on it. We hired a couple of top-notch tech guys, and my son and Rick and a fellow Ryan that we spoke about earlier started to put this thing together, and boom, we got it.
So Dan, how does that work? Is that, so for example, is that agnostic to an EHR that you might have? I guess what I'm hearing you say is basically export PDF, run it through your tool, re-import back into that EHR. Is that what
That's correct.
Is what you're saying? Okay,
That's,
gotcha.
yeah. 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 And there's a lot of like little intricacies about it that some of them we have built, some we have not built yet. Um, the challenge has been adoption of the treatment centers. Now it's more the people using it are the billing companies. So the treatment centers, for some reason, treatment centers, I guess they like to have an extra UR person sitting there reading notes and going through charts day after day after day after day. But the billing companies are the ones that are witty enough, smart enough to leverage technology.
Okay. Well, and that product is available now, right? Chart
Yes.
Auditor. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yep.
All
Yep.
right. We'll drop that in the show notes if people are interested in checking that out. And then and you've got another venture that you've got going on right now too, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's that? And what's that one?
So actually, to step back a little bit, where you said the right people have come into your life at the right time. So we still had Zen charts, and I'm actually in this office right here that I'm in right now. And it was around 9 o'clock in the morning. My partner's usually in, but for some reason he wasn't here. And someone comes in the front door, and I hear him. It's like I step out and I say, "Can I help you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm Ryan Montgomery, and I'm here to see Rick." And I said, "I know who you are." He owned the Boca Recovery Center, and I had trained him in Zen charts. And so I said, he should be here shortly. So he comes in, he sits down, he waits. Rick comes in about 20 minutes later. They go in their office, they start chatting. Next day comes, exactly the same thing happens. 2 weeks in a row, this guy keeps coming into the office, just every day. Spends his day with Rick. One day, Rick comes into my office and says, "Hey, we're going to put Ryan in the middle office, and we're going to move Liam over to the side office with you." And I said, "Okay, why?" "I don't know. We're going to do something." I'm like, "Okay." So a real quick story about Ryan. When we were training him, we go to his office at Boca Recovery Center. We're training them through the day. I don't know this happens. He talks to Rick and he says, "I'm a cybersecurity expert. And would you mind if I check your software to make sure that that you guys are solid?" And we had just done this penetration test. It cost us like in the tens of thousands of dollars to do this thing. It was really, involved. And so Rick says to him, "We just had this done. We are as tight as a drum." And so the kid smiles and he goes, "Okay, would you mind if I do it?" And we said, "Yeah, go ahead, go for it." We get back to the office. We go to log in. Ryan Montgomery's picture is on our computers. We're like, "What? Oh my goodness." So that was, I guess they started to talk, and I ended up it's kind of crazy. I ended up investing in this project with them because I don't know anything about cybersecurity. So I was invested, and it turns out that it's like the craziest thing. Ryan ends up going on Sean Ryan podcast. Okay, this is like 2 or 3 years ago, and the two of them hit it off. And he talks about, one of the things that Ryan does is he hunts down pedophiles for law enforcement. So they talk about this. He shows them how it's incredible how easy it is for these guys to find kids, these predators to find children. And he showed that on air, live on air. It took less than 10 seconds. And he had like 10 people trying to get this 30-year-old girl from New Jersey. So it totally blew us up. And then, of course, the National Public Database breach. It was the largest breach in history here. You guys, I guarantee you're on it. If you go to npd.pentester.com, put in the information it asks for you. It's just basic. You'll see your social security number will come up. everywhere you've worked, everywhere you've lived. It's incredible the data that they have out there. So there's things that you have to do to protect yourself. Okay. These kids built this software program that identifies where you are, what's out there on you, scrubs the dark web for you, and then it'll delete a lot of that information. All the public information that it can delete, it deletes it for you. So it turns out to be like incredible. And the biggest reason that I did it was because um, the HIPAA wall of shame, right? You know what the HIPAA wall of shame is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
All the
But I mean, for those who
Yeah,
don't know, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
yeah. Well, so the government, if you are breached, if your treatment center or your mental health, any medical facility is breached in any way, you have to report this to the government. Depending upon the size of that, is the remedies that you have to, go through. It could be small, it could be large. It depends also how many times this has happened to you. So you get put onto this HIPAA wall of shame. Your treatment center, your billing company, your EHR, all of the above have made it on there. And of course, your competitors are then going to use that against you. And I just felt like, how can we help? How can we help behavioral health agencies protect themselves from ending up on there? Amazing to me, some of the resistance that I've encountered about this. But one of the things that they don't really realize. So if you get caught and you end up on there, maybe you could keep it hidden. Maybe nobody sees it and whatever. But usually it's going to be highlighted. But the one thing that I noticed recently is lawyers do lawyerly things, right? And one of the things that lawyers do is class action lawsuits. So you may get away with a $10,000 fine from the government and have you're up on this wall of shame until everything's remedied. But you're not getting away. The smallest settlement that I've seen recently is like 1.3 million. So imagine your treatment center serving 30, even 100 people, and you have to pay out this class action suit of 1.3 and higher. So it makes sense to utilize some educational process and the technology to help prevent issues, further issues.
I was just going to say, I watched that Sean Ryan episode with your partner, and Ryan is it's insane. The things he can do in a matter of a second. And I guess I would just ask you, is there ever a time where you worry about, like, has Ryan hacked into all my stuff? Yeah.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
So, he came over to my house. I had moved into a new home, and he was helping us set up, our electronics and stuff. And the next day, boop, he pops up on my on Alexa, and he starts talking to me. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan.
Well, I mean, I saw, even on the Sean Ryan show, I think Sean he said, pull out your phone. And he showed him that he had already got his passwords from his phone account. So that was amazing.
Yeah.
So how does how else, besides getting people off the HIPAA wall of shame, like how else are you working with behavioral health companies on, just with Pen Tester or
So
other
basically,
companies?
yeah, well, basically, we have a business plan. It's like $50. It's $49. So what I recommend to behavioral health company, I recommend this to anybody, but behavioral health companies specifically, the way most people get hacked is password breach. And passwords are easy to, I mean, I mean, we've all seen you get like an email and you go, what the heck is that? And you click on it, and next thing you end up on a screen, it looks like a Citibank screen. You have Citibank, you put your password in. So there's all these like different ways that they can hack you and they can get to you and get your stuff. But the easiest way is like that NPD breach. There's a breach like almost every day. And so your passwords get out to the public. Okay. Um, what I teach professionals is don't use the same password on your personal stuff as you do your EHR or your contact management software or any software that you utilize. Don't use the same passwords. Most people, that goes in this ear and out that ear, right? So they find your password. They go in a little intel. They could find out where you work. Then they find out what software. A lot of agencies put this, have listed what software they utilize on their websites, right? So it's really a simple process, or they just ask a question, and now they have a password to get in. They can then explore and if they have permission as a therapist, they could download all your charts. They could download your back charts. They could download anything that they have access to, and then of course the real tech savvy guys could get in and really destroy you. So one of the things that we recommend is it's a $50 plan. You get it for your business. It searches your website. It checks, it goes out and checks all the domains that you have, because you may think you have one domain, but you have all these subdomains that go with your domain. So it goes and it checks all that stuff, and it tells you, like, if it's a WordPress site, it'll start to let you know, hey, this is a potential breach for you. This is a potential, and you can start to build protections against yourself. Then if each of the employees, especially your key employees, if you have them run their email in the system as well, then and that's $5. We have plans that will help lower the cost for bigger places, but if those people run theirs and they don't have to just put their info in and they just let it work. So it'll send like a reminder to you, hey, we just found a recent breach. It's at AT&T. You need to go change your password right now. Okay. So, and it'll give the link to go do that. So it's prevention. It's offensive defense. It's you want to, be active looking so you can defend yourself.
Kind of looking ahead, I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about, doomsday with the hacking, and it happens to everybody everywhere.
Mhm.
But just kind of looking ahead, like, what gives you the most hope about the future of this industry and, maybe what you're working on?
I mean, I love first of all, I'm a big AI guy, right back from the beginning. So I think artificial intelligence is absolutely key in our defense of our systems, but also in, assisting. I used to say with Zen charts, I used to say to people, there's three types of therapists, right? It's a therapist that's great with paperwork, but not so good with people. Then there's the ones that are great with people and not so good with paperwork. Which one do you want? If they're not good with people, they're not keeping people around, but they get you paid. But if they're great with people and they're not getting their paperwork done, right? And then of course there's the unicorns, number 3. So I really believe that artificial intelligence can help us do what we do best: serve people, help people recover, right? Help people in a proactive way without bogging down. Every single time that we got, I was horrible, by the way, with paperwork. So every single time that we got audited, I had to spend nights and weekends at the clinic to make sure that my paperwork was right. I shouldn't have to do that. I had to take time away from my family, and I can't my boss is going to pay me overtime to do what I should have done to start with. As a therapist, I could tell you, especially in this field, at the end of the day, you're burnt. You could tell me until you're blue in the face that you're going to get your paperwork done at the end of the day. You get to the end of the day and you go, whew, you go and you talk to your colleagues. You go have a cup of coffee. You gotta, deep process what's going on during the day. Like, man, I had a rough one today. Oh, I had a great day. And you know what I mean? And you're now bouncing things off at each other. It's, if we could handle with technology how to make you great at your job and get the paperwork done, why not do it? And it's not even that expensive. It's, it's.
Jeff, I don't know about you, but after the show, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is go sign up for pen testing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to go, I'm going to go run a test on myself. And actually,
you're going to be shocked.
I'm sure I will be shocked. It's funny, Dan. I was sitting here as you were talking about the three types of therapists. It's like I had a pretty good idea which one of those was you. I had a pretty good idea. And while I was sitting here, I came up with what I think is just a brilliant idea to market chart auditor.
Okay.
So do you want that live, or do you want me to call you later? Okay. All right.
Well, it's up to you. It's whatever.
Okay. No. I'm going to give it to you live, and I'm going to get your response and see what you think. Okay. You ready? Okay. Three types of therapists, and you just indicated great with people, bad at charting. Great at charting, bad with people. And then the third one is the unicorn, the one that's great at both, right? Okay. I'm going to give that person a name. His name is Art. Okay. Art is the unicorn. So then what we need to do is build up who Art is. And then here's how we market it. Chart auditor, we put the Art into chart.
Oh,
there.
I love that.
Go.
I love
copyrighted up to this point.
That's right. So if you want some more of that genius, you know where to find us. But it's like that was live and in the moment.
Good, Jeff,
awesome.
It's not a hobby for Jeff, so you just need to know that.
So if I see you at the next conference and I see putting the Art into chart, I'm gonna come find you, man.
Coming after me.
If you go after him, I think he'll come back after you with a little hack.
Well, that's why I'm going to get on pen tester and make sure that I've got my defenses up.
Dan, as we kind of wrap up, is there anything maybe we didn't ask you that you think might help the audience?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit, and I'm excited, and of course, I was nervous. My hands are freezing, by the way. Not because it's cold in here. My head's hot. My hands are freezing.
No, you did great. Yeah. It's great to have you on.
Totally.
Sure.
Dan, thank you so much for being part of the show. I loved hearing your story and loved hearing more about what you're working on. It's really making an impact in this industry, and just thanks for being part of it. So, that's a wrap for this episode. On behalf of Jeff and I and the entire MasterMined team, thanks for tuning in. If today's conversation with Dan sparked any new insights around recovery, leadership, cybersecurity, or anything that we discussed, we'll drop all of his information into the show notes. If you have any questions, also drop some comments in, and we'll get them back over to Dan and get them answered for you. We'd love to hear back from you. But until next time, we'll see you next week on MasterMined.
That wraps up this episode of MasterMined. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, MasterMined is not just a podcast, it's a community. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and review us. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content that's relevant and relatable. Thanks again to our sponsor, Snapshot, a digital media marketing agency. And thank you for joining us on MasterMined, your behavioral health playbook.